The mic is on. The conversations are real. And the guests don't hold back. Welcome to another edition of the Hot Topic Podcast. Here's our host, Patrick Clounch.
But to your point about Work Truck Solutions, so I was presented Work Truck Solutions, gosh, this is probably 10 years ago, I bet. And it was presented to me at the dealer level of, hey, we're going to use this. It's a free application. Oh, okay, great, whatever. I was already working one particular, I was working commercial truck trader. And that was kind of the auto trader of the industry at the time. And it worked out really well. It was very simple. It was very easy to use. It was user friendly. Um, uh, I didn't do anything through the DMS, so I did everything on my own. I took my own pictures. I did my own descriptions. Now, a little secret of how I did it was whenever I would order stock units, I would order them the same all the time. So there's a couple of reasons why I did that. One, the descriptions didn't change. The only thing that changed was the VIN number. The pictures didn't change. So legally, you're not supposed to post a vehicle online until it has a VIN number. Once it has a VIN number, then you can post it. Well, because I created my own stock numbers, I would post that incoming vehicle as soon as I ordered it because I knew exactly the vehicle equipment and the truck mounted equipment. I knew everything about the vehicle. I already had a library of photos. So essentially all I would do as soon as I sold a unit, I would show it as sold, take it offline. But on at the time, commercial truck trader, it would save that listing. It wouldn't delete the listing. So I would go in and change the stock number and relist it with a new price. If it was a crossover from a model year to a model year. Well, what that did is it enabled me to have the opportunity to pre-sell everything. So someone would reach out and my stock number it was a 4-digit number dash incoming, meaning we didn't have it. And I would get a lead. They would call and say, hey, I want it. Great. I'll put your name on it, but I don't have it. And at first they thought, okay, were you playing the game? I was like, no, I just ordered it, but if you want it, you get first shot at it. And then once I explained it that way, then it was better perceived. What they had been experiencing was they would call a dealership and the vehicle wasn't there and they were trying to flip them to another truck. So the old bait switch. That's not what I was doing. I was just wanting the vehicle sold before it hit the ground. So the dealership brass came to me and said, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? And then when I explained it to him, I was like, look, this truck doesn't sit on the ground for more than a week before it leaves. So you don't have any floor plan expense if you'll let me to do it this way. And after about 15 or 20 minutes, I saw the light bulb go off. It's like, okay, keep doing it that way. So I was really
Don't tell anyone.
successful. Yeah, don't tell anyone. So, and I didn't tell anybody my secrets. And then on top of that, if I could catch it early enough, because a lot of the vehicles were made nationwide, I would just have the vehicle drop shipped directly from the manufacturer. I would never even touch the vehicle. So that was even better. But anyway, I'm letting all my secrets out of the bag now. So everybody's,
Well, I got
you
some
know,
questions for more of your secrets.
yeah, let's hear it.
So I think I'll start with Sewell.
Yeah.
Was it already an established fleet and commercial program, or did you
Mhm.
head that up? It was already established.
Yeah.
How long had it been rocking around?
Oh, gosh. I mean, Fleet and Commercial had probably been going on for 15 years, I guess. And then the last 8 years, I guess, they made this movement towards life cycle management. So Sewell operates their commercial department operates as um, a standalone individual commercial and fleet department, the traditional method that you would imagine if you want to buy any of the domestics, Ford, Chevy, GMC, or Ram. But they also have a division that handles all their life cycle management. So they have their own call center. They have everything, much like an enterprise, just at a smaller level. So yeah, that was already established whenever I got there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same at 5 star?
5 Star doesn't do any sort of life cycle management. It's just purely sales. Yeah,
Okay.
but it was already established. Now, when I got to 5 Star in 2011, there were five commercial guys when I got there, as well as a selling manager. Um, but when I got there, I think we had less than 20 upfitted trucks on the ground, work ready. And when I left there, we had a little over 500. So yeah, we had
Grew a
really
little bit.
grown the department. You grew it a little bit. Yeah, yeah. And everybody benefited from that, because when I came in, I was coming over from the medium and heavy world, so I was having to start over. I didn't have a customer base per se, and I was gifted the commercial truck trader. The director at the time told me, it's like, hey, nobody really wants to work this. I think it's low hanging fruit. Anything that you can create off of it's yours. So that's when I started to figure out, okay, I started looking at other platforms, other online listings and everything, and just started making my notes of what I liked and what I didn't like. And then, of course, it's like everything else, you put yourself in the consumer's chair. It's like, what do I want to see? How do I want it to? How do I want to experience this if somebody was calling, if I was calling somebody else, basically? And then I just started building it. Most commercial truck listings are really bad. They're just horrible. The descriptions are generally not very accurate. Pictures are just horrible if you get any at all. Um, Response was just putrid because I was secret shopping everybody. I would call listings just to see who I would get, what they would say. And at the time, again, this is early on. This is like 2012, 2013. So, 12, 13, 14 years ago. And I don't think it's changed that much, but, I would call a phone number and not get anybody on the phone and not get anybody to call me back. And I just looked at it and said, you know what? I'm just going to do it different. So I was one of the first people that adopted their text messaging whenever it first came in vogue. So I could theoretically be sitting at home and receive a text message and be able to communicate with that customer, because all the customer really wants, they just want to know that they've been heard. It's like, hey, I want this truck. Will somebody, will somebody respond back? I would always respond back, hey man, uh, on the couch at the house, 9, 10 o'clock or whatever. I'll put you on the list. I'll call you tomorrow, and I always did. And the customers, as soon as you gave them that feedback that they were looking for, they would stop shopping. They were like, okay, I finally got a hold of somebody and I'm good. And when I called them back, I wanted the transaction to be the easiest transaction that they'd ever had. I wanted it to be the fastest transaction, because those two things I felt like it enabled me to be able to make money rather than giving things away. Because the biggest faction at the time was, hey, if you put something online, you've got to give it away. That's the perception that people had. If it's online, it's generally the cheapest price. Well, I let the customer still think that if it's an online price, it is the cheapest price. But that doesn't mean I didn't get to make money, because I made money on my trucks, but they didn't know that. So I
You
had
were
different
getting your
ways.
truck, so.
No, right. Yeah. What difference was it to me? Um, I just had different ways of negotiating. Most everybody, when you get a customer and they want to negotiate price, it's a race to the bottom. Well, I didn't want to negotiate against myself. So if I had a customer, let's say we had a $75,000 truck, they'd say, hey, would you take 73,000 for it? $2,000 less than what the online price was. I was like, well, no, but I'll take 77 for it. And I would just go up. So whatever they went down, I would just go up that amount. And it was funny because when I first started talking to these customers, were like, wait a second, why are you going up? I said, well, why are you going down? I mean, why don't we meet in the middle? How does that sound? They're like, but that's where we started. Right. Yeah, you're pretty quick. I can't get anything past you. So I tell you what, $75,000 it is. What do you say? And I
Sounds pretty good
probably,
now, doesn't it?
yeah, how does 75 sound? Some people, some people thought it was funny. There were some that probably didn't catch any of the humor, but it didn't matter to me because I knew that there was such a demand for those vehicles that if they didn't buy it, there was somebody right behind them that was willing to buy it. So anyway, um, I had a lot of fun with it. I wanted my customers to have fun with it. It wasn't that big of a deal. One of the best stories I ever had. Some guys in East Texas. In fact, they were in the Tyler area. You're familiar with the Tyler area. So we agreed to this vehicle or whatever. Well, I had it cleaned up and I had um, all their documentation and everything ready to go. Well, when they showed up, I pulled them right into finance. They were out within 15 minutes and they were like, okay, what do we do now? I was like, you get in your truck and go home. They're like, we set aside 4 hours for this. I was like, 4 hours? I said, Joe, I like you, but I don't like you that much. You got to go. I got stuff I got to do. And they
There's a
were
bar down
appreciative
the
of that.
street.
Absolutely. Do whatever you want to do. But they were very appreciative. They're like, oh my God, that's like, I was like, no, dude, when you told me this is what you wanted to pay, I was good with it. You sent me your credit app. I got you pre-approved. I had everything done. I had the temp tag on it. I had it fueled up. I had it cleaned up. All you had to do is come in here, sign everything, and the three C's. So it worked out really well. But anyway, I'm sure it's not uncommon. There's a lot of guys and girls that do that. Hey, it's Patrick with Vantage Alignment Recruiting, and I want to tell you how we help dealerships remove the gut feelings and guesswork from the hiring process. We use the Axis Alignment Index to quantify candidates' natural traits and identify where they're most likely to succeed inside your dealership. Because hiring a good person isn't enough, you got to put the right person in the right seat. Vantage Alignment Recruiting. Clarity in hiring, alignment for performance. So
I think on it. I think the uncommon part might be recognizing that that's part of it's having
mm,
that type of
mhm,
that you can sell maybe a little bit over sticker if you give them a
mhm,
bespoke service and have it standing tall and ready when they get there. They don't
mhm,
have to wait. They don't have to BS or get pushed around. In the office or whatever. Like
right,
that's an incentive for sure.
right, right. Oh yeah, for sure. People will pay for premium services, right? If they feel like they're being treated well and they're treated with respect and everything that we as consumers, I mean, I do. If we go to a restaurant and I feel like I'm getting above and beyond service, I will generally tip a lot more than I will normally. But that kind of service should be rewarded, and it's hard to find in today's world. To be honest, I mean, it's rare. You don't really find it. So, but yeah, it worked out really well. So that was a
One of
really
the
long answer to a really short question. So,
No, I love it. One of
yeah,
the I'm looking at your business consultant for Work Truck
yeah,
Solutions.
yeah.
That was Are you still doing that? What's
Well, so Work Truck Solutions was a relationship that we had created when I had my time at Sewell. So now that I'm not with a franchise dealer, I'm not really sure where that relationship is. So just out of professionalism, I listed myself as not a part of that organization anymore. Now, if I have some great relationships there, if they were to step out and say, hey, we still want you to be a part of this, by all means, I want to be a part of it. But just out of professionalism, I just kind of stepped away and showed myself as not really a part of that organization.
my where I'm going with this is I was
Mhm.
talking to someone earlier and we were
Mhm.
talking about that Ford Pro is looking to increase penetration for dealer support and get more boots on the ground to push out into dealers that are looking to expand into space, give them support, and it's in my opinion like a desperately needed service for people looking to do this. You just mentioned they handed you the keys, they were kind of like, this is a hot potato that nobody wants, to hold, but you had wild success with it.
Mhm.
There's Everyone's getting pretty creative with the market the way it is right now, and there's a lot of options on the retail side that people aren't looking at. Different people to talk to, different customers to talk to, different items to sell, things like that. I think that that's going to be really important in the coming years to see where that expands. I want to help dealers. There's a lot of dealers that are doing both. If you figure one out, you're probably okay. At least one side of it.
Yeah, I think what dealers experience is that when they look at commercial vehicles, it does nothing for them on the backside like retail does. So obviously with retail, they have numbers they have to hit. If they hit those numbers, there's quantifiers on the back that they can take advantage of. A lot of those quantifiers are monetized, right? So if for whatever reason there's a lot of different layers to it all, and I'm not privy to all of those, but simply put, on the retail side, that's where all of your incentives lie. But really, when you stop and look at commercial and fleet and vocational vehicles, it's simply just about gross profit. So that's when the retail side gets lean and profitability tends to go out the window like it has here recently and continues to. The commercial and fleet department is what pays the bills every month because it's kind of a hidden gem on that backside. There's not a lot of people that really look over there, but it's very lucrative. And I did a video yesterday on my podcast talking about the differences between um, customer acquisition on the retail side and customer acquisition on the commercial side. Well, if you get a customer that you can sell a car to on the retail side, typically that's a two-car transaction. You've got the new car and their trade. Those are the two things. With a typical two-car family, let's say, you may not see that customer for another 18, 24 months, maybe longer. But on the commercial side, if you make that one transaction, typically it doesn't have a trade involved, but that customer may have a fleet of 50 or 100 or 200 or 500. It just gives you more opportunities. And a lot of people um, that are in the automotive space, one, they don't know a whole lot about commercial and fleet, so it scares them. They stay away from it. But those that want to step in and try to figure it out find that it's a very lucrative side of the industry. Now, what I think is going to happen, you're going to find a lot of dealerships that find some sort of lucrative um, part of their business to become a Ford Pro uh, facility. The problem that they're going to they find is finding the right people to run it, because what they're going to do, they're going to try to take retail people and move them into commercial, and it's not going to work at scale. It just won't work. I've seen it tried time and time and time and time again. Ford can say what they want. General Motors can say what they want. Stellantis can say what they want. There's just not enough training that goes into this that's going to allow these commercial departments to flourish. Now, on the flip side of that, these dealerships are spending a lot of money on that investment. They are spending money on buildings, on inventory, and everything you can imagine. They're going to have the right people in place to be able to make that work. And honestly, there's not enough people out there to go around. When you start to look at our side of the industry, it's a very old side. There's not a whole lot of next gen that are stepping in and wanting to be commercial account managers. Just doesn't work that way. So dealerships are going to have a hard time. They're going to try to move some retail people over, and they're going to struggle mightily. They're going to struggle because it's just a different skill set for one. And then it's a whole different mentality of how your customer acquisition comes about and the time that it takes. I've seen retail people come over and they get frustrated when they don't make that sale in the first 30 days. We were talking about that earlier, right? It's like you got to let it marinate. That you've got to get in the buying cycle of that customer, and you have to keep,
Slow
the
and steady. Yep.
absolutely yes. And the customer acquisition side on the commercial side takes longer, but there's a bigger upside. Again, you get one
Retention.
company, and they have 200 vehicles. You treat them right, you're going to get a shot at all 200 vehicles. So,
So I have a question that leads
all
me to
right,
another question. For dealers that are
sure.
looking to expand into this, you're kind of an expert on skill sets and who can do this and who cannot, right?
Right. Right.
What would you suggest if there's a principal that's looking for a leader that can take over the fleet and commercial side of a business and they want to kind of that? What do they need to
Yeah.
succeed?
Number one, you're going to have a really strong director, manager, however you want to phrase that. You've got to have someone that fully understands the commercial and fleet side of the business. And what I mean by that is it's not a fast transaction like retail, right? There's on the retail side, if you have, let's say you have 50 customers that walk through the door that day wanting to buy cars, you might have two or three on the commercial side. The flow is just isn't there. Beyond that, you've got to quantify what kind of business are you. And when I say that, a lot of people look at me like I've got three eyes, but let me explain. So there's 8 different ways that you can sell a commercial vehicle. On the retail side, there's really only 2 ways. You have basically retail and you have internet. It's just a different way to be able to prospect for your customers. But on the commercial side, there's 8 different ways to sell a vehicle, and you have to you have to identify how are you going to market. Okay, so are you going to buy and keep $30 million worth of inventory on the ground that are work ready vehicles? A lot of dealerships will tell you they don't want to do that. And it's simply because of the floor plan expense that it's going to cost them on those vehicles that they don't know when they're going to sell. On the retail side, typically they've got a 90-day supply. They've got enough data that tells them keep this many Mustangs, keep this many F-150s, keep this many Super Duties. Okay, that's great. But on the commercial side, those vehicles tend to sit longer. That's the downside. The upside is if you have 10 and they sit there longer, there's a possibility you can go one day and sell all 10 and be
Mhm.
out. Right. So it's just different. But once a group figures out, okay, this is how we're going to go to market. Now you have to be able to adopt people that can sell in that method. So let me give you another example. If you're going to get in the government and municipality business, a lot of that business is built on bids. So you get a bid packet, you complete the bid packet, you send it back, right? You're familiar with this.
And then cross your
You,
fingers and wait 30 more
yeah,
days to hear back.
that's right. Or whenever, right? So let's say you win the bid. Okay, great. You know exactly how many vehicles, how much, and everything it's going to need. Now, that's the upside. The downside is if you have the wrong person bidding that, and let's say they miss one spec on that bid of 100 vehicles, and that spec is $1,000. You've gone in the red on that deal. And it's simply because you had a misaligned person in that seat. Consequently, let's look at another method of cold calling, right? Outbound prospecting. That takes a special skill set. You and I talked about this earlier when we were off air. Not everybody can go knock on doors or pick up the phone and smile and dial. It's just not cut out for everybody. But if you ask somebody that has a skill set and maybe they're a little more of an introvert, but they really like crunching numbers and they really like projects and they really like deadlines, well, they can probably work really well in your government and fleet municipality business. But if you ask that same person to go out and knock on doors and try to create relationships and network with people, they're probably going to fail. And that's the differences. Again, there's with 8 different methods. um, you have to find the right personnel. You can't just take someone and say, okay, now you're a fleet and commercial salesperson. What does that mean? How do you want me to do it? Well, it typically the way it works now is they put you in a department, they give you a desk or an office, they give you your credentials and a computer and say, okay, there's a ton of vehicles out there, go sell them. Okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. Okay, but you just go figure it out. All right. Well, if you don't know what you're doing, there are incentives and just different methods to selling vehicles that you could get in trouble very quickly. And oftentimes people don't understand that when a vehicle comes in as an incomplete vehicle, meaning it doesn't have something on the back of the vehicle, once that truck mounted equipment that's mounted on the back gets added to it, it doesn't reflect in the sales price on the window sticker. The window sticker is just for the cab chassis, the pickup box delete, or the complete vehicle, whatever it is, right? But it doesn't account for what you put on it or in it. A lot of fresh, new, next gen salespeople, they don't know that. So they go out there, they see a customer, and the customer's looking at a truck, right? You see where I'm going with this. And they're pointing at a KUV, for example. Well, that KUV body's $24,000 on the back of it. But then, the salesperson goes out there and says, hey, I'll take $3,000 off sticker if you'll buy it today. And yeah, oh my God. And then the customer jumps back and says, how many do you have? I'll buy
I'll
every
take them
one
all.
of them. I'll take them all. But you see, you put the wrong person in that seat and you didn't train them. All of a sudden, the dealer looks up and says, we lost $25,000 on that deal. Yes, you did. And he bought 3 of them. Yeah, you lost $75,000. So again, it goes back to a couple of things. One, you've got to have the right people in the right seats. All right. So let me just break down the 8 methods. All right. So we have retail. So that one's pretty straightforward. Customer comes in, customer sees vehicle, put the deal together. Here we go. Right. You have internet that's pretty close to that. Customer sees a vehicle online. They want to come in, or maybe they want you to deliver it to them, whatever. All right. You have that method as well. Then you have fleet. Then you have commercial. A lot of people want to take and put those two together. And those are 2 different entities. So here's the difference. When you look at a commercial vehicle, those are typically going to be your vocational vehicles. When you look at fleets, it's somebody that's wanting to buy 300 F-150s. That's fleet. Commercial is going to be your vocational vehicles, mechanics trucks, dump trucks, flatbeds. Yeah, well, that's even different. When you look at police cruisers, now we're talking government and municipality. That's completely different, and that's just a different method to selling altogether. You have outbound prospecting. Okay, so um, when you take an outbound prospector, and you can probably couple in your life cycle management along with those 2, and they're kind of the same. Here's what I mean by that. When you're selling life cycle management, you're not really selling a product, you're selling a service. The same thing goes true for outbound prospecting. You're not really selling a product, you're selling yourself. Okay. So you can categorize those 2 methods, if you will, as more of an emotional selling process. It's a longer burn. If you walk in and you're talking to a customer and you're like, I want you to buy my truck. Well, the customer's like, we don't need a truck. And I might not need one for another 2 years. So I don't really need you. But if you can walk in and prove that you are valuable to their operation, then you become the truck guy. So on the retail side, you sell a vehicle, then you build a relationship. On the commercial and fleet side, you build a relationship, then you sell a vehicle. And a lot of people don't really equate those 2 things together. Um, the other 2 methods that you have, obviously, we talked about internet, we talked about retail, we talked about fleet commercial, we talked about life cycle management, and then we talked about outbound prospecting. You have wholesale that's completely different as well. So if you're a business that just wants to make $500 on a vehicle and you want to sell 10,000 a month, I mean that's a different way as well. But each one of those methods takes a skill set, but it also takes a mindset, someone that's naturally equipped for that. So um, the reason why I had as much success as I did, it wasn't because I was a great salesperson, but I had processes in place. I was a good process person. So I can go from box to box to box to box, and that was my skill set. I'm going to take a customer from here to here to here to here to here. And the customers that I had could really appreciate what I was doing for them. But if you wanted me to go out there and take a client to dinner and entertain them for hours, that just wasn't me. It's just not what I was set up to do. I've seen people be very successful doing those things. It just didn't work for me. So once I kind of figured out my lane as to what made me successful, the parts background is probably what did it. Um, the organization, and I know you and I kind of have that same similar background, but it's the organization of things and being able to compartmentalize. Okay, what do I have to do to go from T to green? What does that
Purchase
entail?
order, receive it
Yeah,
into the system, charge it out
yeah,
on the work order. Like
that's
that's
right.
where I was thinking when you were talking about that
That's right.
exact process.
Yeah, it's the same process, but now instead of moving parts, you're moving vehicles. That's all it is. Yeah,
So
yeah.
parts managers would be a better fit than like your hotshot variable sales guy.
Depends. So I think a good parts person could be very good in several aspects. Fleet is one of those. Maybe government, municipality, possibly. Um, maybe internet. I mean, it really depends on how they map. I don't think they'd be very good outbound prospectors. I don't think they'd make very good. Now, I'll tell you who would make really good people that are going to promote your life cycle management are service advisors. I think they would make good outbound prospectors as well. Because if you think about a service advisor's daily, they are delivering bad news on 90% of the calls that they make. Think about it. Nobody woke up that morning
Yeah.
wanting to replace the alternator on their car
Yeah.
or the battery or a radiator or a water pump or whatever it is. You're delivering bad news.
While thinking about your
So,
CSI score and trying to make it a
yes.
comfortable
Yeah.
experience for the customer. That makes a lot of sense.
So you see, you have to have the right person in that seat. Now, what does that person have to be? The number one thing that a service advisor has to have is a high tolerance rejection to high tolerance to rejection. That's the number one thing because every time they bring something up and every time they open up their mouth, somebody is barking back at them from both sides, internally and externally. That's probably the hardest job in a dealership is being a service advisor.
My first manager, I started at a parts counter, and my first manager was the director over parts and service. And
Okay.
he started me at the parts counter, but he really quickly realized that we talked about cross pollination, like, oh, I'm going to teach her warranty, and now I'm going to put her in a service writing, and then now she's my foreman, and now she's flagging the techs, and now she's in dispatch, and blah blah blah. But when I remember my first week with him, I will never forget. I was at the parts counter, he was explaining cycle counts or something. And I asked him, I was like, "You're over all of this." The guy was a genius. I still have the utmost respect for him. But I was like, "What's your favorite thing to do back here?" He was like, "Parts." And I said, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Parts don't yell at you." And I was like, "You got a point." And I sure learned that lesson. Like you said, it's not a technician that needs their SAMO flange. It's not someone at the counter that's like, "Why are you charging me this?" It's not, "I need this yesterday" kind of thing. And it's just checking that box and making sure the numbers match from the paper to the computer and hitting enter and moving about your day, putting it on the shelf. So
So I have a
definitely see that.
question for you. So if parts don't yell at you, why does the parts department take the blame for everything that goes bad at the dealership? Explain that to me.
I
It
Because we are the
but it
redheaded
does.
stepchild. I feel like my friend Kaylee is the parts girl, and we talk about that all the time. When I talk to variable people, there's another friend of mine that does variable with a fixed ops background, and we recently were talking about how variable can't close if service isn't working. Right? You can't
Right,
deliver your
right.
vehicle if service didn't get it ready for you.
Correct.
Service can't operate if parts doesn't have the stuff that you need in stock. So
Correct.
therefore, they should be them and the technicians, in my opinion, are the most important people in your entire store. And I'll say
Yeah.
that straight to the general manager's face. But it's a flywheel that ideally should all be feeding each other. Everyone talks about
Yeah.
sales as the umbrella that's
Okay.
paying for our lunches, unless your absorption's dialed in, unless you got, a reasonable fixed operations dialed in.
Mhm.
But I think that they're blind to it. I think that this is just a personal opinion. I could be totally wrong. But when I was in parts, I had to learn service. If I was doing a parts and accessories turn, I had to know how to flag my labor. I was also doing warranty, so I had to increase our labor rate. I had to know what the technician was. I had to figure out the margin between what we were paying them and what we were getting from the customer, maximize that, blah blah blah. So parts has to know service.
Hmm.
Service has to know sales. I need to know
Hmm.
who you're closing, if this guy is for real going to come through, if your finance office is actually going to be able to close this deal. Are we going to be able to move these units? How many guys do I need on the ticket for this weekend so I can push these units out? Like, they have to learn all of that. Variable doesn't have to know anything about us. They don't have to know. They just know how to talk to the customer and,
Hmm.
Hey, it's Patrick with Vantage Alignment Recruiting, and I want to tell you how we help dealerships remove the gut feelings and guesswork from the hiring process. We use the Axis Alignment Index to quantify candidates' natural traits and identify where they're most likely to succeed inside your dealership. Because hiring a good person isn't enough, you got to put the right person in the right seat. Vantage Alignment Recruiting. Clarity in hiring, alignment for performance.
make them a coffee mug or whatever. They just expect it to work. And I feel like I've said this recently. I was having a conversation with someone else. One of my clients he's an owner principal, and he took PTO to learn every single role in fixed operations because of the respect that he had for what that was doing, and because it's his store. He's like, I need to
Yeah.
know that this is
Yeah.
working. Like, I need to
Yeah.
know it, not just trust the guy back there that he knows what he's doing. Like, I want to
Yeah.
have a full grasp of it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, since the dawn of time, variable hasn't really needed to do that. They just trust that guy Joe back there to figure it out, and and if Joe doesn't work, we'll get a new Joe. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I think that's why. I think that we have respect for what they're doing, and we're all
Yeah.
trying to fight because it affects our job directly. They don't
Yeah.
understand that we affect their job directly.
Oh my gosh. It's an ecosystem like what you referring to, right? So let me ask you this. When it comes to a general manager of a dealership, do you think a general manager should have fixed ops experience or variable? Who makes the better general manager?
So I'll answer that by a story. I
Okay.
started managing restaurants in my earlier years,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I was at a corporate chain, and they had a very strict, methodical 3-month module for onboarding new AGMs. And in that 3-month period, I had to work every single position in the front and back of house. I
Okay.
had to be from the busboy up to the hostess. I had to wait tables. I had to be a fry cook. I had to be the grill cook. I had to be expo, to go orders, all that crap. I had to do all of the ordering, inventory. I had to be a bartender. I had to learn every single role. And they do that because that's the expectation. If you're on shift and you're the manager, you are the one that's supposed to help these people. And in my opinion, the general manager is our captain, and we're looking to him to run the ship. If a customer is, say, delivery's going sideways, and there's a technician that's, you know, not necessarily supposed to be client facing, but he's trying to resolve it and he doesn't know what to do, I think my general manager should be able to jump into that and speak both languages. Be like, the technician, was working on getting a part. We're sending a parts runner nearby to go get it. He didn't have the right tools, so we're grabbing one from a local rental place or whatever. They need to be able to facilitate that because you are our leader. I think they need all of it. I think that, you can be wildly successful with only variable, but there's so much money you're leaving on the table if you're ignoring that other side. You,
Yeah.
you, there's no, I don't believe that there's any way that you can optimize that unless you just are throwing money at like the best of the best fixed ops directors and just
Yeah.
sending it. And even then, how do how are you inspecting what you expect? If you don't know what it looks like, if you don't know what good looks like, you're like, well, I pay him a lot. Okay,
Right.
great.
Yeah. What does that mean? Yeah. I think I would agree with with a lot of what you said. I believe that in today's world, there's not enough training that goes into promoting someone into a general manager's role that they base everything on sales. Rightfully so. You can see it. You can just see it. Fixed ops is more about, no, I'm not saying you can't see progress or regress in fixed ops, because you certainly can. It's probably more quantifiable on fixed ops than it is on variable, right? So I was having a conversation with a gentleman that he's built some software that helps dealerships on the used car side to be able to quantify their inventory, inbound units, outbound units, what they need to stock, what they don't need to stock, and things like that. And he showed me a metric, and he was showing me a particular dealership can see the bottom, whatever, 10, let's call it, vehicles that made you the least amount of money. And I said, okay, so is that based on the market, or can you tell me who sold that vehicle? And he goes, why would I need to know who sold that vehicle? I was like, well, if I have a bottom feeder of a salesperson that having to give everything away, is it an indicator of him or the car? And I saw him, he started writing notes down. He was like, oh, we never even thought about that. I was like, yeah. So if you have one person that sold 7 of the bottom 10 vehicles at that dealership, odds are it's probably the person and not the car. So the same can be said for any operation within the dealership, right? If you have a bad team of service advisors, you're going to see it. Gross profits are probably going to be compressed. CSI scores are probably going to be low, and you're going to have a certain amount of turnover through there, right? There's already a high amount of turnover um, for retail sales and for service advisors to begin with. But if you start to see a bigger number over there, that probably an indicator that you have some wrong people in the seats. The same goes for parts. If you're constantly getting behind on parts, parts are always late. So yes, you can run around the whole metropolitan area that you're in, and you can go gather parts from other places, but you're paying a premium for those
Oh yeah.
parts, right? Not only are you paying a delivery driver to go get them, but typically you're paying, uh,
You're using
some
your
sort of
cost. You got
percentage.
to do that retail
Absolutely.
markup, and yep.
Yeah. And you don't get any of the benefit of ordering it directly from the factory, right? So in in order to be able to optimize that department, you have to have somebody that really knows what they're doing, and they can fit within a window of knowing all the rules that go into place into ordering parts. People just think, well, you just order parts. To a certain degree,
I
yes.
wish.
Yeah, but it's not that easy. It's, okay, well, we only really need 3 of these, but if I order 10, I can get this discount. Okay, well, what are you going to do with the other 7? Well, that's when you
Sell
have your
'em.
wholesalers, right? It's like, hey, we'll just sell them to the other dealerships in the area. But it's a huge ecosystem underneath the rooftop that it takes so many people to be able to pull it all together. But here's the one part I will disagree with you. Nothing happens until you sell something. That's just fact.
As I was saying, I was like, man, me and Patrick are getting so much hate mail for, for this. But I
Hey,
will say, let me revise my answer a little bit, backpedal.
yeah, yeah,
None of us can eat without the other. I think that the
absolutely,
ideal
absolutely.
setup is someone that has enough respect for the other departments to monitor them and to be
Yeah,
involved and to understand them
yeah,
and to reduce that friction between sales,
yeah.
finance, service, and parts. And
Here's something I used to do, because I was a parts guy, and that's how I cut my teeth. Every month, I would go and get 6 or 7 dozen donuts, and I would go to different departments throughout the dealership. I would go to service. I'd put a couple for the service advisors. I would set some back there for the technicians to be able to get a hold of, parts, especially my porters, my drivers, the whole support staff, right? You'd be amazed. I became the donut guy to them. They didn't know who I was. They would see me, but I was in a store that had roughly 300 employees. So you could get lost pretty quickly, especially with the amount of turnover. But every month I would walk in with donuts. I was the donut guy. And I was fine with that because anytime I needed something, I would show up. I wouldn't call, I wouldn't email, I wouldn't text. I would go there and say, "Hey, I need some help." And man, I'm telling you, just a dozen donuts to start the month. You walk back in the back warehouse of the parts department, say, "I need some help." 5 guys would jump on you. "What do you need?" "I got you, man." Because you're there to take care of them. It's just little gestures like that. And we shouldn't have to say that. That goes without saying. But it's just amazing how many people don't do that. It's really that simple. Just take care of your people. Even though you don't, even if they don't have anything to do with you directly, indirectly they do. Everybody at the dealership has an indirect reflection on everybody there, without a doubt.
I have experienced some dealerships, I will not name any names, where there
Oh,
was a
name them. Let's
weekly
go.
there was a weekly meeting, stand up, where they would get breakfast for all of the sales guys and nothing for fixed. Once a week this happened. And the sales guys started realizing they would grab two and three, and then they go and give their favorite tech a sandwich or whatever. But the fact that that had to happen from them and not from the top, like it didn't occur, to the person making the order, that maybe I should feed everyone that's here today, is a shame. Like you said, like we're all rowing in the same direction. We all
Right.
want these doors to stay open. We all want these
Yeah.
people with a smile on their face when they walk out. Like,
Yeah. Culture. It's culture. It's and I'm going to tell you that the dealership group you're talking about, I have no idea who it is, by the way. I'm not even going to try to guess, but my guess is that general manager was probably had a variable background. Probably another sales guy that just jumped in there and just didn't have any appreciation for what goes on the backside. That's a guess. I'm just guessing. And don't come at me with all the hate mail saying that I don't like
send it to
the
Patrick though
variable
if you
guys.
do, not to Sheila.
Yeah. Hey, I got big shoulders. I can take it. But but there's probably a lot of truth to that. It's like, why don't you think of the people? You know, um, one time, one of my stops, we had probably 30 drivers, 30, to be able to make things happen. A lot of them you didn't even see. They were gone at 4 and 5 in the morning to make long deliveries for us. But when we had, get togethers and whatnot, I always made sure that they were a part of it. Because man, they were vitally important because they were an extension of me in front of the customer. A lot of times I didn't even know what the customer looked like, but they did because they saw them. I'm back at the office just hammering paperwork, and they're delivering for me. But they're not any less important than anybody else at that dealership. All the way down, we had a porter. All he did every day, he walked around with a blower. He was blowing off drives, sidewalks, but he was just as important as the top salesperson. It and a lot of and I don't it just baffles me. A lot of groups just don't get that, but it happens.
I've seen and heard and witnessed salespeople disparaging the service department to a prospect as they're doing their up, and I'm like, that's like saying your left hand is no good. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's not, and they think it's ingratiating to the customer, and I
It's
don't see
not.
how. So
No, I mean,
I'm never gonna hear from you again. Once we finish this transaction and you take such good care of me over the coming weeks while I'm researching whatever, now I'm gonna have to go get my oil changed, and you're not gonna answer your phone. You're not gonna
right,
help me schedule. You're not gonna tell me where my part is. Like,
right,
why would you
yeah.
set them up for that expectation?
I always had service advisors that I trusted, um, that I always pointed my customers to. Now, I had a different business model. Most of my customers weren't anywhere close to my dealership, and I did that purposely. I wanted customers as far away as they could get. And the reason is because I could work multiple customers at one time by working them electronically rather than in person. If you have a customer in person in front of you, you're at their mercy. If they want to sit there for 2 hours, if they want to sit there for 2 days, that's your world, right?
You want to crawl
But
the lot and it's 110 degrees outside and they want to look at a fourth unit. Oh, don't get me started.
let me tell you something. My greatest thing that I would tell people, they would want to come in and take a look at a vehicle. I was like, hey, have you ever gone to Ford.com? They're like, no. I was like, you can do a virtual test drive. You can actually sit in the vehicle in front of your computer at your house. Take a look at it.
Leave me alone.
But well, I was not saying that, but yes, that's what I was saying was I don't have time for this. And the best ones were customers, and you already know where I'm going with this. Customers that their company ordered them a vehicle, and you weren't going to get any part of this. Like they lived at near your dealership, but the car was going to a different dealership, and that was going to be their company car. They wanted to come in and test drive a car that was really close to theirs. And it's like, are you buying it from me? No, 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 no. No, my company ordered it. We're going through Enterprise, and it's going to one of your competing dealers. How do you politically handle that situation? I wasn't very political. I will be the first to admit, and I don't think, and you guys out there that are listening right now, don't sit there and make me out to be the bad guy. You know what I'm talking about. You tell that guy, it's like, man, I really wish I could help you, but you know,
It's
I
the
don't know what to
same
tell you.
thing as when you're a parts manager and that phone rings and they're like, I need this weird part. It's 20 years old. It's got to come from the OEM. It's like this. Help me with the part number. And they're going to send you pictures. They're going to do this and that. And say that you find it and they're like, cool, what is it? No. Why? So you can research it and buy it on eBay? Like,
That's right.
I just spent 45 minutes with you narrowing this down,
Yeah.
emailing back and forth, making sure it was the one with 3 fingers and not 2. Like,
Right.
you're buying this from me.